Welcome to 30-Minute Reviews. I am Adam. Big news day yesterday for Paramount. It used to be Viacom CBS, but now it is Paramount. We're going to talk about it. So let's get down to the nitty-gritty of what happened yesterday. We're in the middle of, investor information, and this is all coming from investor calls and things like that, and I think that part of the thing is, as movie studios are acquired by larger corporations, and become publicly traded, more information comes out, during these, and I feel like it would behoove a lot of these companies to do, a Nintendo Direct style thing. I've always been a big proponent of the Nintendo Direct. I think the Nintendo Direct is a great marketing tool that Nintendo kind of pioneered, and then PlayStation followed suit, where we're going to go out and show you, here's all the cool stuff that's coming. And here's trailers, here's gameplay footage, here's a bunch of cool information. And I feel like it works for gaming because in the gaming community, there is kind of a not quite more insider information. Someone who's going out of their way to watch Nintendo Direct will know enough about the gaming industry where it's oh, this studio is working on this property, and then I can be oh, that's cool because I liked what this studio has done in the past. And I think that if they were doing that with movies, we're getting to a point now where, the entire marketing for No Way Home was insiders and leaks and things like that. So I think we're getting to a point where studios can probably do something like this. Instead of doing it on an investor call and having Variety and comicbook.com and all these other sites listening on the investor call and then be okay, so here's all the cool stuff happening. And comicbook.com did report a lot of this, which comicbook.com is owned by Viacom CBS, formerly now Paramount. And I think that, maybe that's why they were so quick on the uptake on this, is because they, I would assume they were okay, we're going to have this go to you, in advance, so you have your articles ready to go as this announcement happens, so you can drive viewership to the site. I don't know if that's accurate. Maybe it's just conspiracy theorizing, but, they were oddly on the ball about shit that ordinarily they wouldn't cover, I think. A live-action Dora the Explorer movie. It's not exactly in the wheelhouse of, well, they did cover Dora and the Lost Kingdom, or Dora and the, whatever the fuck that movie was with the girl from Transformers. Anyway, so let's talk about the things that are relevant to us. So now Transformers, there are a few things here that say that Paramount is very optimistic going forward about some of their major franchises. Number one, they have picked up A Quiet Place 3. I still have not seen A Quiet Place 2. A Quiet Place 3 was picked up, and that's going to be released in 2025, which is one of those things where it's it seems weird to think that far out, but it's only 3 years away. It's the release date for Infinity War, when it was announced, was the same distance out, and there was no oh, what's this futuristic date of 2018? No, but 2025 is when that's going to be released. Then there is, oh wait, I'm turning. Then so I have a new way to get to work that's slightly faster, and I keep forgetting, because, muscle memory. So I think that's going to be interesting. I think there's a spin-off too. Then there is the big reveal that what's going to be happening with the Star Trek movie. Because the Star Trek movie took the previously voided release date that was occupied by Star Wars Rogue Squadron. When that was vacated, Star Trek jumped in, took the release date, and now, I think it's next December, is going to be Star Trek 4, the fourth Star Trek movie. I think that it may get bumped considering what they announced. They announced that they're going to use the same crew as the previous three movies, meaning, Zachary Quinto as Spock, Chris Pine as Kirk, and Zoe Saldana as Uhura, what was his name? Carl Urban as McCoy. But as of right now, they have only reached out to and started negotiations with Chris Pine. I'm thinking it's premature to think that it's going to come out on that release date, considering that Dune is a little bit different, considering they don't have to rebuild everything, like, from scratch, and, like, all the production design is mostly done. There's most of the concept art, like, you know, Arrakis is already designed, and for lack of a better word, that's all done. A lot of the casting is already done. You're willing to cast a few people, like Fade Rautha and a few others. You have to cast Princess Irulan. I've already expressed my casting choices for those roles. And I think that if we're going to look at that movie keeping its October release date of 2023, I think that's more likely than the release date being kept for for Star Trek, considering that, yeah, Max Shackman's doing it, and Max Shackman's been, I would assume, in active development this entire time, planning for what they're going to do in this movie. But I'm thinking things like, you know, getting the cast back on board and all of that is, you know, it may delay it. I mean, I'm not sure. I don't know how effects heavy it's going to be or anything like that. It is possible it comes out on time. But they seem committed to that December release date. So I'm excited. I liked Star Trek Beyond. I liked the first one in 2009. I didn't really care for Into Darkness. But it's good that they're getting some of the people back together to do this, as many as they can. I'm thinking that when the contract was signed for Zoe Saldana, she didn't quite have the star power she has now, so it may be like an X-Men Apocalypse kind of thing, or an X-Men Days of Future Past, where they signed Jennifer Lawrence to a multi-film contract before the Hunger Games in 2009, you know, for X-Men First Class. And it's one of those, you know, situations where it's like, well, now, you know, she was in Guardians of the Galaxy. She was in Avengers. She is, you know, she's got a huge career outside of, you know, playing Uhura. So that's gonna, you know, hurt it. And then, I mean, Carl Urban may have scheduling conflicts if they do season 4 of The Boys, which he may be contracted to already. If they're doing season 4, I can't see how they do it without him. He's my favorite part of the show. He's so funny on that show as Billy Butcher. I think that it's one of those situations where a lot of the actors may be tied up in existing contracts that are going to be hard to get them out of. I think the only one who will be easy to get, ironically enough, is Chris Pine, because his other major movie is Wonder Woman, and I'm fairly certain they definitively killed him off at the end of 1984. Like, they're not going to bring him back again, because what would that serve in Wonder Woman 3? And I feel like that's kind of the thing where they're going to have to address, is that, you know, that he's going to be easy to get back. Him and Zachary Quinto. Like, Zachary Quinto, it's like, you know, what else is he doing? I don't think he has another position where he's like, oh, let me see if I can check my schedule and see what I can do. Like, you know, Carl Urban's on to bigger, better things. I don't necessarily want to say better in a pejorative sense, but, like, he's gone on to bigger roles. Like, you know, on The Boys, he's a series regular for 3 seasons now. Because season 3 comes out this year. I think that that's a big thing that's going to have to be addressed if they're going to re-sign him. Simon Pegg can probably get back, but, you know, whatever. Then there is the news about Transformers, and I think this is a real power move on the part of, Paramount. They have announced that Rise of the Beast Warriors, or whatever the fuck the name of the next one is, whenever that comes out, that will be the start of a new trilogy. And I think that's a bold statement, considering that Transformer movies in recent history have not done very well. Like, the one in 2008 was a massive hit. And then, like, you know, so was Dark Side of the Moon and Revenge of the Fallen. But then they started falling off a cliff a little bit. To the point where I think The Last Night was a flop. And The Last Night, I think, has its issues, and it should have been a two-part movie. And I think that that's one of those movies where it's like, they seem afraid to do two-part movies, it looks like, in a lot of cases. But that could have been a two-part movie, and if it was, it would have worked a little bit better. So I think that would have been an interesting kind of thing to see how that works. But, what's what I'm looking for here? With them greenlighting a trilogy, it says that whatever they're doing with this next Transformers movie, that is a period piece like Bumblebee was. They seem committed to the idea that this is going to work and it's going to make money. Because I think we've reached a point where, like, Iron Man was kind of a tipping point to an extent, where if you look before Iron Man, movies that had traditional looking superhero stuff was not well received. Like, if we look back at like, what was going on and like the traditional comic booky stuff that was happening before Spider-Man, before Iron Man, it's like, X-Men was afraid to wear its comic influence on its sleeve. And even like, what was it? Spider-Man seemed oddly grounded. It wasn't the extravagant kind of stories that you would see in the comics. Even if it did hone closer too. But like, looking at like how the characters are, they're not in costume the way they are in the comics. Like, the fact of the matter is, we get a more comic accurate looking Green Goblin out of Willem Dafoe in No Way Home. And I love that look on him. With the purple and the green. I love that look. At that time, it's like they were afraid to be like, oh, this looks silly, this looks like it's for kids. It's not for kids, it's for adults too. And that's kind of what they were doing at that time. Then Iron Man happens, and it's kind of this weird tipping point where it's like, we don't need to, shy away from where this came from. This sold in comics for years, and people would read the comics for years. So, we don't need to be afraid of the source material. We can embrace the source material. It's the same thing where, like, when you hear Marcus McFeely, who wrote Captain America, talk about, the first Avenger, it's like we were never going to do a thing like the first X-Men movie. Like, what are you going to do, put us in yellow spandex? Like, we were never going to do that because, people have bought this character for, almost a century now. So why change it? So, I think that's kind of the big, thing there, where it's like, Transformers came out just before it, and then the character designs for Transformers were kind of bound to the character designs from the first one. And it was kind of still like, we're going to do Transformers, but we still have some fear that it's going to, not work well in the confines of what we view in theaters. And then Bumblebee came out, and Bumblebee looked, pretty good. Bumblebee was pretty fun. So I think the idea of doing a movie like this is a great idea. So, yeah, I think that they're thinking that they're going to be able to parlay this into a larger, thing. Let's see, what else was there? They're doing 3 SpongeBob spin-off movies, one of which is going to strictly be the violent rape of the corpse of Steven Hillenburg for an hour and a half. Because, he was always against this, and it's like the second he fucking dies, it's like, okay, we're doing every SpongeBob spin-off we ever had an idea for in the last decade. All of them are happening all at once. Get ready. So there are 3 SpongeBob spin-off movies happening. There's a Dora the Explorer live-action, I think, movie. I don't think that that's a particularly good idea, considering the last one didn't particularly work. I don't know. I think that Dora the Explorer works in the confines of animation, but I don't think it translates to live action. I say confines of animation feels like an oxymoron. But looking at what happened there and why and the Lost Kingdom, or Dora and the Lost City of D, or whatever the fuck that name of that movie was. She, it didn't work, but, they're going to try it again, because why not? South Park will be officially moving exclusively to Paramount Plus in 2025. That is after, after it leaves HBO Max, where HBO Max currently has the back catalog. It'll be going to Paramount Plus. That'll be a ratings driver for them. And then also the Beavis and Butthead movie, also coming to Paramount Plus. So that's big for them, I think. And then there was, Blue's Clues No Way Home, which is a nostalgia baiting, movie that features a team up of all three Blue's Clues hosts. I know Steve, I think Joe is the second one. I don't know the last one because I don't have kids, and, Joe was the last one I remember seeing as a kid because my brother and sister were still watching Blue's Clues at the time. And I was in second grade when Steve left, but, that was a, that it's one of those things where it's like, it's going to get, I don't think it's going to drive subscribers. Like, I don't think that Blue's Clues is going to be a ratings driver in the way that, like, some of the nostalgia-based content that Disney is making on Disney Plus is that. I mean, maybe if they redid some of the older shows and not just Blue's Clues, and we're like, look, we're going to revive all of these things from your childhood that you like. I just don't see it as a ratings driver for Paramount, especially considering Paramount's back catalog of other, like, I think that Paramount might have a better deal going forward, and they might be able to get more subscribers if they really capitalize on the fact that it is the only place you can watch Nickelodeon's entire back catalog. Like, if you go to HBO Max, they don't have the entire back catalog of TV shows that aired on Cartoon Network. They don't have all of them. They have some of them, but they don't have all of them. Same thing with, if you go back into the back catalog on Disney Plus. They have, I would say, the vast majority of Disney Channel shows, but they don't have all of them. And if you're going to create new content, just be like, look, we're going to do a new Jimmy Neutron movie. We're going to do a new Fairly Odd Parents movie. Don't just sit here and keep, I mean, probably not Fairly Odd Parents, but Hartman's been making an ass of himself lately. But I think that would be the way, if I were in charge of marketing, that's what I would do. It's like they're starting to do that with Avatar Studios, where they're going to develop a bunch of content based on Avatar The Last Airbender, which I'm all for. I loved Avatar. I loved Legend of Korra. I think that it's a great, they're both great shows, and I think that, them developing more is a net good for everyone. But I think that at the end of the day, them doing a network where they're gonna, like, if they started doing that might get people there, or advertise like, look, we have your childhood. And I'm not exaggerating when I say they have every single show that aired on Nickelodeon and Nick Jr. and all of that. And this sounds like an ad, but Paramount Plus is not paying me. I don't like Paramount Plus, really. But if that's their thing and they're like, look, we have all of it, that would be a selling point for a lot of people, I think. Like, oh, shit, like, I have kids, I can show them what I watched. Like, I can show them Danny Phantom. I can show them, like, original SpongeBob. I can show, like, all of this stuff that you grew up with, you can show them again. Or you can watch it yourself. And that would be the thing that I think would, drive viewership to an extent. But I know for certain it would have, like, HBO Max beat, where it's like, some other streamers have some of the content. We have all of the content, like going back to the 90s, like all of it. I think that would be a big selling point for a lot of people, and I think that would drive subscribers. So we'll wrap up there for today. Let's see if any other companies do a big upfront or anything like that in the near future, because it'll be interesting to see if any other companies come primed and ready to hit. Let's see if Disney maybe releases a trailer for Kenobi, which I would have sworn would have happened during Super Bowl, or a trailer for Love and Thunder to try and regain the news cycle, because that was a big news cycle for Paramount to just dominate and win. So it'll be interesting to see if Disney or Warner Brothers decides to hit back. And I have a feeling they might try to. I don't know if they will, though. So until then, have a great rest of your week.